Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 150, Finding Balance When Things Get Crazy. Well, welcome to spring, which is usually a crazy time, right? With graduations and weddings and baby showers and all kinds of events going on, which can really add to our busyness. It's a good thing that we can actually do some of these things again. But this month, I want to focus on all about how to figure out what is crazy in your life right now. What are some of the typical culprits? And then, of course, how to get grounded and create and maintain some much needed balance. You know, sometimes I think it's obvious why life seems like it's spinning out around us, such as we had a big crisis hit, or we have a big change going on, like moving or divorce or job change or new school or going back to school, that kind of thing. But I think more often we can become slowly accustomed to it being too much, like a little bit every day, and it slowly increases. And since we acclimated slowly down the slippery slope, we don't even know how we got here. I think we don't even realize sometimes what has actually accumulated in our life until, of course, we start showing symptoms. Or others that know us and love us start pointing out gently that they're kind of concerned. I think all of these are boundary issues. And even though we know better, not liking reality. Like we only have 24/7 kind of reality, and we're only one person. Maybe we have difficulty grieving and accepting that, hey, we can't and shouldn't try to do it all. And what we might need to face to get balanced. So that's what we're going to focus on this month. Today, we're going to do a little bit of an overview and kind of assess where you are. I think one way that's helpful is to ask ourselves some pointed questions about what might be happening in and around us right now, and maybe see how out of whack things might be. The following is a quick assessment of some of the signs, not all, of course, that can point to being in a need of balance. As you listen to these, I just want you to focus on whatever truth comes up immediately in your heart. And guys, now is not the time to shame yourself if this is true. On this show, we own our stuff, but we love ourselves through it, and then we own the solution. So hang in there. Conversely, you might have either denial or anxiety come up. Anxiety coming up like, oh crap, that's true, oh no, or, oh no, I'm fine, everything's great. So I just want you to become aware of it and know that it's natural and normal to just wish that all this wasn't true and you could just continue on as is. Because making changes like that can often create conflict that we might be afraid of. We might have to disappoint people, which we will, or not have everything that we want to have right now. So just want to normalize that. And if nothing comes up for you, good for you. You got it going on. All right, here's the assessment. So if you're walking or you're driving or you're jogging, whatever, just see what comes up in your heart. If you're in a place where you can write things down, I think that's wonderful. You can write down whatever words or phrases that pop in as answers to these questions. Okay, you ready? The first sign that maybe your life is a little out of balance is you haven't exercised in weeks or maybe longer, or eaten very well for that matter. That stuff's been backburnered for a while because there simply hasn't been time or energy, and you felt more tired and crappy, but you just kind of attributed that to all the busyness and everything that's going on. You haven't been taking care of your physical health. The next one is maybe you've been spending more money than usual and not being mindful in budgeting. You've been so busy, so caught up in reacting to situations maybe, and throughout your day that you're just not noticing or you're not paying attention to the reality that maybe you're spending too much and maybe you're buying things to fix the problem. Maybe it's to rescue someone else. All right, so your boundaries around money are starting to struggle. Number 3, you're not getting enough sleep and downtime. Those are different. Sleep and then rest or downtime. Either because you're too busy, maybe you can't wind down at night, or you're trying to care for like a new baby or a loved one who needs care in the middle of the night. So your sleep is really becoming hurt by that. Or maybe you're just going to bed too late and getting up too early trying to do it all. 4, you struggle to stay present in your conversations with people. Maybe you feel restless, you feel distracted, you're tired, you're stressed, or all of the above. Your focus may be on another situation you have going on or that needs to get done today. You want to be present, you want to enjoy this conversation with your loved one or colleague, but you just can't sit still cognitively enough to do that. 5, maybe you find yourself more irritated and agitated and unable to control your temper. You know, small things you normally wouldn't notice or would at least be able to blow off really start to bother you, and you hold on to them. And you hold resentments and grudges, and you react over small things. I think this is because we're not taking care of ourselves and we're not addressing the real issues. So we've got to get it out, right? We got to get our unhappiness out. We have to get our frustration out. We're just displacing it on safe things because we're afraid to face the big things. Sometimes that big thing is ourself. 6, your life seems to revolve around one particular area, such as work or someone else's problem. You know, you're burnt out all day, you're going and you're running, maybe you're just working too many hours, and when you get home, you're eating and going to bed maybe. Or maybe you numb out with TV or binge watching, grabbing some wine. I think this is really important because this singular focus is where we can lose our peripheral vision about the rest of our life. When a crisis happens, we typically do that. We are consumed in the immediate by this acute thing that's going on. And obviously, it's going to be a rough week or so. I'm talking chronic. When it's no longer a crisis, hopefully, but we're still pretending that it is. And we have one focus, and it can only be work, or it can only be our partner's problem, or our kids' stuff, or whatever. 7, you constantly feel stressed, anxious, or worried, even at a low level. You often find yourself worrying about what could happen. You can't turn your brain off at night. You may even have moments of severe anxiety or panic. You're probably easily startled, which is a trauma response. And it feels like so many things are triggering you these days, things you might not have been so upset about before. 8, you resent having to do what other people want you to do and what they want from you. It seems like way too much, and why can't they see that, right? Like, how dare they take advantage of you? Don't they know how tired and stressed out you are? Don't they realize that you haven't cleaned your house in 3 weeks because you haven't had time? Why can't they see that the resentment is focused on what other people are doing and not doing as opposed to what you're allowing? 9, you have people in your life you haven't called back, responded to their text or emails because you haven't had time. Forget initiating these things. When's the last time you initiate a phone call because you took time to check in on how other people are doing? And if you're not doing that, you're probably not spending time with people either. Enjoyable time. And finally, you are defensive. And it could be about little things. It could be about big things. It could have to do with you being too busy and overwhelmed. It could be because you dropped a plate because you have 50 of them up in the air. and you forgot an appointment or you forgot to do something or you've been too busy for a loved one, all that stuff. So you get defensive. Maybe there are arguments lately, more than usual. Okay, so what came up for you as you answered these questions? What did you notice? What did you realize? Were your answers a surprise or a no-brainer, or maybe something you've already been working on, which is great? I think the key is to early and often be mindful of what's going on for us before things get to be a bit much and damage is done. Damage to our health, damage to our relationships. But why do we even let things get this way in the first place, right? I mean, especially if we technically know better. Well, this month we're going to be diving into what might be causing some of the crazy. And as you'll see, it's going to be all about boundaries, including one episode, we're going to focus on trying to make others happy. All the ways we focus on what others want and need from us. And sometimes, and this is where that slippery slope comes in, we get so knee-deep in it that we create stress and self-neglect. Or at least imbalance, where there isn't much time or energy left over for us. We will also focus on how a lot of times we get too busy because we're running from feeling. We'll talk about how sometimes the crazy comes from not wanting to sit in some very difficult emotional reality. Or maybe years of emotional numbing, like this is how you roll with busyness and other focused activities that you call responsibilities. And oftentimes they are. That's why this stuff can be so hard to diagnose, because it looks like caring. It looks like taking care of your family. It looks like being a good worker. You're not doing bad things. So it's going to be harder to convince yourself that maybe this needs to change. Another episode, we're going to focus on our thinking, our binary beliefs, how we operate sometimes in the black and white, either perfect or horrible, with the onlys and the always and the nevers. And so it's really hard to get out of a hole if you think there's only one way out and that doesn't look possible, right? So we're going to focus on changing binary beliefs into gray areas and possibilities. Another area and another reason why we can run and get too busy is because we're striving for meaning out there in the world, right? People, places, and things. Instead of intrinsically or on the inside. We're going to look at how we can outsource our purpose, our meaning, and our identity, which ends up making us feel unfulfilled, frustrated, crazy, anxious, stressed, and it makes it very difficult to practice self-care. So looking out there for who we are, basically, and what we're about, and turning that inward, like we've talked about in different ways on the show, and looking at you as a person and what your values are and what your meaning is and what your purpose is and how you want your identity defined. And finally, we're going to wrap up the month and talk about, okay, how do we fix this? We're going to talk about ways to find balance. What are the tools to focus on and maintain some balance in our lives? So, in preparation for this month, if you already haven't become very familiar with boundaries, I would encourage you to start doing some work on that. Go back to the early episodes on boundaries, read about boundaries, notice in your life, how well do you hear no? No can come in many different forms. Someone can tell us no. Life can tell us no by not giving us that job we wanted. Do we accept the boundary and the no as just reality, or do we take it as a personal rejection and as a challenge, right? Those of you out there, you know what I'm talking about. You're like, that's okay, I'll figure it out. I will find some way, hell or high water, to make this happen, because I'm superhuman. I'll find 10 more hours in a day. I'll figure out how to fix this weekend. I'll give them the report back instantly. I'll do all this stuff. And essentially, it's saying, that you don't have to adhere to the rules of reality in terms of we only have so much energy and time. We only have so much physical strength, mental strength, emotional strength. That we also need to factor in sleep, rest, good nutrition, downtime, fun, and taking care of our own stuff. How well do we say no to people? Part of how we get into this mess, and we're going to talk about it this month, is, are you always saying yes? Like, yeah, sure, I can do that, without even checking as to what's already piled on your plate in your hand? Do you have any business saying yes to that? What is the fear? All of this stuff this month that we're going to be talking about is fear-based and trying to control outcomes, as opposed to saying what we need to say, letting the chips fall, letting go of the outcome, saying, I'm so sorry, I can't help you this weekend. I already have too much on my plate. Choosing, committing. And when we commit, there may possibly be a mistake. There might possibly be a loss. We're going to disappoint people, of course. We're going to be disappointed, perhaps, because we can't do everything we want to do on Saturday. Learning to choose and follow through on what we choose. And that means saying no to some things. And they could be very good things. Choosing is empowerment. Taking care of ourselves is empowerment. So if you fell down the slippery slope, it's okay. You can climb back up. But first, I think we have to get gut level honest with ourselves about where we really are on this continuum from self-care to self-neglect and everything in between. So today we talked about a very important subject, I think, and that is feeling out of balance, feeling stressed out, or maybe just struggling. We took a quick assessment that can help us to identify if we're not staying grounded. And then we talked about areas we're going to focus on this month to find out just why we allow things to get this way. And most importantly, how to right the ship so we can take better care of ourselves. With Mother's Day around the corner next week, I thought, what a great time for you moms especially, to take a moment and see where you can step back and love yourself a little more. Thank you for joining me today. May you stay healthy, focus on self-care, and love yourself today. If you don't already get the newsletter on Tuesday, go to ownitpowercast.com and sign up. All right, guys, pay it forward, stay focused on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.